Hi, how's it going? Welcome or welcome back. I am going to try and keep this video as short as possible. It's just a recent topic I've been wanting to talk about. I have briefly talked about it on my TikTok actually. However, I have come to realize that I do in fact have a totally different audience on my YouTube channel. And I am really trying to not neglect this channel and also the audience that is supporting it. So I present to you my yap for today, and you are welcome to leave your own thoughts and your own comment. Okay, so I am going to be yapping about a recent TikTok controversy, which I am now bringing to you on YouTube, a controversy regarding a popular creator that went viral back in 2020. So a little recap and some context. If you were active on TikTok in 2020, which I think a lot of us were, due to the fact that that was the year the COVID-19 pandemic hit, you most likely would have seen this TikTok that I'm about to play for you fall onto your For You page.
Excuse me, her name is Margot. Not Marco or Mango, Wells Fargo. Yeah, someone said Wells Fargo. Like, her name is Margot.
So of course this TikTok went mega viral. So viral in fact that it got the attention of an artist who then sampled that video for his own music. Crazy.
Someone said Wells Fargo.
They call me Tiago. I don't know who's Margot.
That was a thing, and it of course resulted in the owner of Margot gaining millions of followers. So fast forward, the owner, who is named Roman Hawk, would continue to make content, some of it with Margot. I think at the time I only followed him briefly and then unfollowed because I was like not interested in his content anymore. So I was not there for the conception of his corn star era, in which he started making content for OnlyFans, which was, I guess, a shock to some people, but it's only important for a specific reason, and I'll get to that later. So if I remember correctly, he started this OnlyFans when he had just become 18. And like I said, since 2020, he was only briefly mentioning Margot and making like only a few TikToks here and there, and that was that. So then come this year of 2025. It's been 5 years since that viral video, been like a year or two since his followers have heard anything regarding Margot, and in June of this year, he announces that Margot has passed away. So of course, his own followers, including people who knew Margot from that viral video, gave their condolences, but this is where the controversy starts. So with the information of Margot's passing, Roman makes a GoFundMe, which usually isn't a problem in regards to a deceased pet. However, the problems arise when people read what the GoFundMe is supposed to cover, alongside its goal of $4,000. I will post a screenshot of the rundown he gave as to why he's asking for $4,000. But basically, with the money he was asking for, it was to cover her autopsy, it was to cover cremation of some of her remains. There were other couple things that were, again, listed in that screenshot. But one of the costly things that made people raise some eyebrows was that within this GoFundMe, he was also asking for money to cover her taxidermy. More specifically, what's called a skeleton articulation, which is a taxidermy process where they remove the bones of the animal and reassemble it. So while the problems with the GoFundMe was being discussed, there was a lot of discussion behind Roman's alleged neglect of Margot. So let's talk about that really briefly. By the way, I'm not going off a script for this video, so I am just gonna relay the information that I remember. But there are two big reasons as to why people believe Margot was neglected. One of the reasons being her cage setup. Many folks were arguing and discussing that her cage setup was not habitable for a bearded dragon. The biggest reason being that there was fabric/cloth in said enclosure, which typically is not good for reptiles as it is bacteria growth encouraging, and said bacteria can harm the pet and create health issues for them. Not only that, but Margot was very visibly obese, which of course is a very visible sign of potential neglect, which is a result of overfeeding, not giving the bearded dragon enough enrichment in their cage, or both. Okay, so remember when I said that their OnlyFans would become important much later? And you're probably wondering, what does this have to do with the neglect of Margot? Well, there is evidence coming from Roman's own account that he posted when he was finding a lot of success on OnlyFans that told his followers and the public that he was making some good money. Good money as in a salary of $1 million.
Because there was He's apparently claiming that this is AI because people are spreading it around, but the problem with that is I literally saw the original video this is posted from, and it's a screenshot from that video.
Yeah, he was bragging about his income, and he had multiple videos bragging about the amount of money he was making. And folks have discussed his potential earnings around the years of 2022 and 2023, that income being near $2 million. Of course, I say near $1 million a year or near $2 million within those 2 years because we have to account for like taxes, and also OnlyFans does in fact get a cut of that. But I would put the amount he was actually taking home per year within that time frame at about. So what does this money making have to do with the neglect of Margot? Well, it just begs the question, why was her enclosure like that? Because there is no way you're making that amount of money and you're not prioritizing the animal that you claim is like a daughter to you. His words, by the way. And not think about how you can give her a better quality of life. Because I don't know about you, this may just be me, but if I was making near $1 million a year, my guinea pig's lifestyle will be going up. And they're going to be getting their own loft in my own loft apartment, okay? Like if I made more money than I do now, then the pets I claim to be like children to me would be the most prioritized. So that's why his income is being discussed among this, because OnlyFans, I assume, is like his main source of income right now. But let me get back to one more thing as to why people think Margot was neglected. But there was a TikTok made, I think back in 2023, that was a health update regarding Margot.
So anytime I post Margot, people always ask, where did her tail go? So I'll give you all those story time.
So when I was living in Long Island, Margot randomly started laying a lot of eggs, which I thought was weird, because I did have a male at the time, and I think it was just the hormones from the male causing her to produce eggs. You know, they kind of like lay eggs like chicken, like they were all unfertile. None of them were fertilized. But one broke, and it was very, very stinky. So as time went on and she was just laying these eggs, it concerned me. It concerned me a lot. One day she was free roaming, and she was walking around, and I heard a crunch. I looked down, and a piece of my jewelry, like one of my very small earrings, and at the time a nose stud of mine, had fallen onto the floor off my desk, and she ate them. Very small. I immediately took her to the emergency vet to where they x-rayed her and said they were going to pass normally and they did not need to do surgery. But her uterus was septic. I had also noticed the tip of her tail becoming dark, so I brought that up to them as well. I was like, hey, her tail is very stiff at the very tip. I'm concerned about that. And they said it was most likely a correlation between that and the infection in her uterus.
So literally the next day, Margot had a hysterectomy and her tail amputated. So now she's left with a little study stub. Oh, this is all healed, her tummy is all healed, and she's doing great. No more eggs, no more pain. And she's wonderful. She's lost a lot of weight. A lot of the weight on her was from that dead uterus and how big it was, so Margot was alive and safe.
It's in this visit when Roman is told Margot has sepsis. And in the TikTok, he starts explaining how Margot couldn't pass or lay any eggs because they were basically just rotting inside of her. And I'm just gonna say this, he kept referring to what I assume he meant was her oviduct as a uterus. Reptiles don't have uteruses, they have oviducts. So I'm gonna assume he was just confusing the two, and the reason I say this is because people are saying that this didn't happen because, oh, he's claiming that she had a uterus and bearded dragons don't have uteruses. Honestly, I think it was just a mistake and a lack of knowledge on her actual anatomy. He claimed that one visit costed him near $6,000, and that was that, right? But here's what I'm kind of taking from this video, because it was very clearly a later stage of sepsis that probably could have been caught if he was taking Margot regularly to the vet. Again, this very visibly overweight animal was taken to the vet because she had swallowed a piercing, and it's in this visit where her owner finds out she has sepsis, and it's pretty much already too late to do any treatment for her except remove what I assume is her oviduct. Whereas if she was going very regularly, again, an overweight animal should be getting regular checkups, then most likely it could have been caught in a much earlier stage. And again, this is just my assumption, but I personally think that this vet visit was the first one in a while. Because if Roman can't do basic research on what her enclosure requires and what it shouldn't have, I'm gonna assume he's one of the pet owners who thinks that their pet only needs to go to the vet if they injure themselves or if they swallow something. And if you're making over 6 figures a year, then you should be getting your pet regular checkups. Hi, ignore how I look right now. But after watching that video back, I just realized that the neglect of Margot was actually very blatant. He was aware that there was something wrong with Margot and didn't do anything about it. The moment that he saw that she was laying unfertilized, infected eggs was when she should have been taken to the vet. But very clearly in that video, he tells us that he didn't do a thing about that and just let it run its course, I guess. I don't know. I've also never had a bearded dragon, but I feel like if something like that happened to a reptile of mine, I would be concerned enough to take them to the vet. But no, he takes her to the vet once she eats something of his. So that's that on why people believe he was neglecting Margot, which of course is a problem to people when you're asking for $4,000 for a memorial of said pet. So now I'm going to discuss the problem with the GoFundMe. That discussion being the information and the costs are not adding up. So over on TikTok, you have people who have experience in cremating pets like this, discussing why they think the price point given is way too high and why this GoFundMe may be a scam. And of course, you also have people experienced in taxidermy arguing essentially the same thing. But here is my problem with it. Like I mentioned in the beginning, I have briefly discussed this on my TikTok, so I'm just going to discuss this more in depth here. Here is what I personally think. It is one thing to want to ask for help to cremate your deceased pet. I personally think that we all deserve to have our pet at least cremated or at least have a proper burial for it. So I am not going to dog on Roman for wanting her cremated, especially because Margot's passing just so happened around the time that he has to move back to his parents' house in Alabama. What I am gonna dog on him for is asking for a skeleton articulation that he does not need. And again, I'm going off my memory, but it's one of the more costly things in that GoFundMe. Roman does not need Margot taxidermy. You don't need taxidermy even if it's of your pet. Taxidermy is entirely a privilege and it's also artwork. You also don't need it to properly mourn your pet. And as mentioned, I brought up that he's currently trying to move back to Alabama. With that, you can already assume that his financial situation is not okay, especially because he is asking for money for a memorial. And he himself was also arguing that he doesn't have all this money anymore. So that begs my question, why is he prioritizing taxidermy right now? And by the way, another reason why the GoFundMe is so high is because he also wants the shipping of his taxidermied pet covered as well. So he's in this bad financial situation and he's thinking of this costly taxidermy. Oh, but no, he's expecting his fans to pay for it. He's expecting the sympathy donations to pay for free taxidermy for him to look at. And he's mentioned before that fossils are his special interest. So at least to me, it's very obvious that he doesn't actually require Margot be taxidermied in order to properly mourn her. He is just hoping to get a free piece of taxidermy. And you know, he's not the only content creator who has expected to get free things from their audience. Because like I said, this taxidermy is not necessary. He can either cremate her or, get this, if he really wants her taxidermy, he can take the cheaper option and keep her in a freezer until he can afford the taxidermy himself. Since he is driving back to Alabama from New York, it's actually less cost effective to put Margot's body in an insulated box with dry ice in it. Oh, but no, that's actually not an option apparently, because he did respond to a comment, very condescendingly if I may add. And this comment that pissed him off was also alluding to something similar.
Would you rather her stay in the fucking freezer?
Roman sounds very pissed at the idea of having to keep Margot in a freezer. By the way, her body would have to be kept in the freezer as he awaits for taxidermy, and basically turn the more cost-effective action into something he can use against people. Because, you know, keeping her dead, lifeless body in a freezer is way more barbaric to ask of him than keeping her in a bacteria growth encouraging enclosure and overweight. Not only all that, there is one more thing that I and others have come to realize that makes no sense in what he's asking to be covered in that GoFundMe. So if you remember, in that GoFundMe, he was also looking to cremate some of Margot's remains. So essentially, he wanted to cremate some of her and then take her bones for the skeleton articulation. But here is the problem with that. You need the bones to essentially cremate something. And that goes for both humans and animals. In the process of a cremation, all soft tissue is vaporized. And what is left are the bone fragments, which then are pulverized to create what we call the ashes. So he technically needs the bones to create the ashes that he's gonna put in this custom urn he's also asking to be covered. What remains is he planning to keep if he's taking all the bones? The math ain't mathin'. So this is where I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt, because he was either given the wrong information and was told something that they can't do, or he knows this and he knows what he's doing and knows that the two can't happen together. So all of that was the context and also my personal opinion on this controversy. As a result of this criticism on TikTok, Roman did make a couple of choice videos, one of them addressing said controversy while wearing a fursuit, because you know, when your $1,000 fursuits are being discussed as to why you couldn't give your pet a better quality of life, that is the smart guy idea. But I guess the reason he did that was because he couldn't bring himself to shower for a few days as a result of this. But I just want you to know that he said this while simultaneously posting on his spicy Twitter account. He has since deactivated his TikTok and privated his Instagram account. And that is where this controversy comes to an end. At the end of the day, I don't hate the guy. If he were to come back, would I just forget everything and become a supporter by choice? No. I just thought that this conversation was interesting, having seen point A and now point B, and also just wanting to voice my opinion on him thinking he needs taxidermy. And if you have any thoughts, wanted to add something, then you can leave a comment below. And also, whether you are a subscriber or you're first seeing my content, let me know if you're interested in more commentary videos. And if you're really interested in commentary or just my thoughts, you can also leave me any ideas if you so please. Well, that ends this discussion today. I am just happy that I got to sit down and actually record something for once. I am really trying to get into the rhythm of posting more on YouTube, so if you really like seeing me post, let me know. Regardless of that, I will be trying my best. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.